Well, India has announced ambitious plans to become a global chip production hub. The country currently imports 100% of its semiconductor requirements, but is now offering incentives for companies to set up fabrication plants locally. Now, this is amid a global chip shortage that has sparked a rash of new projects by established chip makers such as Intel, Samsung, TSMC and SK Hynix. Now, for more, Neha Punya joins us live from New Delhi. Neha, thanks for being on the show with us. India clearly wanting to become a global hub for semiconductors. Tell us about the incentives the government is offering to attract large foreign investors.
Absolutely. This is an ambitious plan and one that's been in the making for a while now. Just last week, you had the Indian government officially announce a $10 billion incentive plan to woo semiconductor manufacturers. And now that policy has been formally notified by the country's electronics ministry. Now, under this, the government says it is willing to offer financial support to semiconductor fabricators for up to 50% of the project cost. This support, the government says, will be in place for 6 years, and if it feels there's a need to extend this duration of support, it's also willing to do that. It says it'll also try and prioritize demand from these companies under its Make in India initiative. It's also talking about supporting skills development, research and development, as well as helping these companies train individuals for the long run. And companies can start applying in the new year. There's a 45-day period the government has identified, and you have the country's IT and Electronics Minister, Ashwini Vaishnav, saying pretty confidently he is sure that approvals will be speedier as well, will come through in about 3 to 4 months. And it's not just this. The central government is promising all of this, but state governments are also trying to woo semiconductor manufacturers. Uttar Pradesh, for example, is offering tax incentives, speedier land allotments, as well as capital incentives as well. So clearly, the Indian government trying to fire on both fronts to try and make India that global hub of electronics manufacturing.
Right, $10 billion you said there. Is this scheme financially viable considering the extent of support that is providing to firms?
Certainly an expensive proposition, and this is something that's been in the makings for a while. So the government only committing to this after a lot of deliberation. But given how reliant India is on semiconductor imports for its own domestic needs, and given the global shortage we've seen because of the pandemic, the government is certainly hoping that this is a scheme that will reap its dividends over a long period of time. The plan, the government says, is both short-term and long-term. It's hoping in the next 2 years to set up about 20 semiconductor manufacturing units, and it's hoping that these sort of incentives will help bring in investment to the tune of $22 billion. And the government is also pretty categorical by reminding many chip manufacturers that there's a lot of demand in India, because the demand for semiconductors in India alone is expected to triple to about $100 billion in the next 3 years.
Neha Punya there, live from New Delhi.